Hi, I'm Milena. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another, what will hopefully be a fun vlog. The last fun vlog I tried to do was with the tarot cards, which I really enjoyed doing. So this will be a similar setup where I read 3 books based on some kind of game or some kind of way to pick a TBR. And this video I've seen more people do, but I think most recently I saw Book Rose do it, or she did it a few months ago. And I really enjoyed that she didn't just read books looking at the covers with the color wheel. Did I already say I'm going to do the color wheel, where the color wheel random color generator will pick a color for you and then you pick a book that has a cover with that color. But she also did some activities around it, so I will of course personalize it to myself, and I'm just gonna try to be as creative as possible. So you can expect maybe some fun bookish outfits, some thrift store trips, which I will probably go more than once, maybe some crafting, maybe some embroidery, maybe some baking. I mean, depending on the colors, maybe I could make some cookies with a certain decoration with a color, hopefully Halloweeny, because it's almost that time of year, or like an orange brown thing. That'd be fun. So yesterday evening I picked up my phone and did the generator so that I could already make a TBR. I kind of prefer making a TBR at least an evening before I start filming, so I can really think and plan a little bit. I find it way too stressful to do it like live on camera. You just have to trust me that these were the first 3 colors that came up. So I'm gonna grab the screen recording. Alright, so the very first one was spinning. Was deep purple. Okay, let's pause it. So I was super happy with this. First of all, because that means I can do something witchy with the deep purple color. Also because that matches a pre-order that I have coming. The audiobook comes out like a week earlier. Just because I live in the Netherlands, it takes a while to get here. So I think I will listen to the audiobook because I've done so in the past, and that is the new Pages & Go book. The cover is purple. I don't know if you would call it specifically deep purple, but it feels like a magical purple to me. This is a middle grade series that I have been reading as they have come out. This is about Bookwanderers, so about kids who take walks into their books. So it's magical, it's like low fantasy and super fun. It's a big love letter to books. And I was looking at this cover and I'm guessing that we're going to get a myth book, because I saw some Greek myth hints on the book, which I'm going to enjoy, I think. Not as much as the fairy tales, which was book 2. I love that so much, but I think this one will be fun as well. And I think this is going to be the very last book in the whole series, so this is book number 6. Really excited to pick this one up. And then the second one, so another spin. Yes. Right, and this was yellow, which wasn't super difficult, but it was kind of difficult looking at the books I actually want to read, because I did want to pick books for my own TBR. The pre-order is a future own TBR, but that is actually a book from Boys. Well, we don't really have separate book collections, but some he just purchases. And then he really fell in love with this author and he told me that I need to read this. So of course, if my non-bookish husband is going to recommend me a book, I want to read it very fast. But that is The Remains of the Day, and this is very much a yellow cover. I love this edition, not because it's super pretty or anything, but because Boy read it. We bought it secondhand, and the first few pages are heavily annotated by someone we don't know. So I might use it for my review. The funny thing is, usually when you see this, that is just the first chapter that is heavily annotated, and then they gave up. Which is, it's funny because this isn't annotated at all. But yeah, this is about a butler in the 1950s in England. So kind of his era has kind of disappeared, gone by, and now he needs to try and live in a society that's not as heavily based on class anymore as he was used to. I believe that is what this is about. Boy says it's very good, and it's also just fun and comforting. I'm really happy to put this on the TBR. I did one more color, so let's look at that. So the final color is teal, and I'm looking at this, and the letters would have worked as well, so I could have picked this as well for teal. I picked a non-fiction because then we have a little bit of everything, and I picked this one, which I think this is teal, right? The floor. it's a really big part of the cover. And this is Once Upon a Tome by Oliver Darkshire, and this is a diary type thing of someone who works in a secondhand bookstore. It sounds really fun. I wanted to read this for my 30 and 30, but I didn't get to it. So I'm happy to read it now. So this feels kind of like a light-hearted non-fiction, which I think is perfect for this kind of vlog. I have planned one thing for the colors, and that is a sewing project for deep purple. So we're going to start with deep purple. It was also the first color that came up. I'm going to sew a bag with a little bit of a Halloween theme or a witches theme. Without further ado, let's start with deep purple and Pages & Co. So I like this look, but I think instead of doing it on the back, I will sew a little pocket and do the embroidery on the little pocket and make it a bit smaller, I think, than it is right here. My second option is this one, which I also really like, but then I will change the colors and make the mushrooms red with little white dots. So I'm not sure yet. Hi, I have finished my deep purple book, Pages & Co, the last Bookwanderer. I listened to the first half and then the pre-order came in and I read the second half. I don't know, is this the best book in the series? This is book number 6 and Pages & Co is about a couple of kids. We start out with Tilly, our main character, who lives together with her grandparents in a bookstore, and then she discovers that she can book wander, which means she can walk into the books that she reads and interact with characters. And later on in the series we follow different main characters, but it's very much a continuation, so they're not like standalones within the series. So every book kind of has a few books as themes. So we have a book that's about fairy tales. We go to Alice in Wonderland, Anne of Green Gables, Wizard of Oz. This book is about myth and legends, and wow, I enjoyed it so much. I of course know a little bit about the legends that they talk about in this book, and a few of my favorite characters from myth were discussed, had characters in this book, were characters in this book, and everything that I wanted it to be. The end was bittersweet. I wish this wasn't the last book because it's my ultimate favorite middle grade series. First two I did reread before reading the third, and then I just kept going with the series. It's hard to say if I think this is the best one because it's been a few years since I read the other ones, but now I kind of want to start at the beginning again and just read all of them. The main theme of this book is very much imagination, and that is just what this whole series is to me. It's just so wonderful, the thing that you kind of want to do as a reader. You know, interact with the characters, be part of their world. It's ultimately magical and I loved it so much. It's gonna be a 5-star. I think I got really lucky that the only pre-order I had matched the color wheel, because this is definitely deep purple. I also really love the bag that I made. It was a lot of fun to do. So yeah, this is a big success. Would highly recommend starting the series. I think so many people would love this. I think I would have dearly loved it as well when I was a kid, but you can still enjoy children's books very much. So yeah, glowing 5-star for this one. So let's get on to the next color. Welcome to a very gloomy and rainy morning, and I don't mind it at all. I'm having a really chill morning, but I did finish Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. Let's just have a little sip of coffee first. So first of all, having heard things about the author's work in general, this was not what I was expecting, but I was pleasantly surprised in the sense that this is way more the kind of book that I would normally read. So it is historical fiction set in the 1950s, but it really has that Downton Abbey feel because the main character is a butler and he still very much lives in the 20s and the 30s, even though it's the 1950s. He used to work like before the Second World War and during for this lord. I mean, if you've seen Downton Abbey, this is basically Carson. It's the best way I can describe it. It was written in the 80s. We have this butler who used to work for this lord with a really big household. It was a world in which that role and that job was taken very seriously, really had a high standing, I think, kind of between other working class people. He took it really seriously. Being a butler is his entire identity. But then we get to the 1950s. His English lord has passed away and the estate has been sold to an American who now employs him as well, but of course thinks about these kind of things very differently. So his American employer tells him to go on holiday when he himself is also gone, and he is allowed to take his employer's car. And while we follow him on his vacation, we get flashbacks through the time when the household was really big, so when there were still these big Downton Abbey vibes. I think on a very superficial read this might be slightly boring in a way that we read his travel diary, and in his travel diary he also has all of these reflections of the past. He is not a incredibly fascinating character in the sense that he's really set in his ways, which is interesting because of the changing times, of course, but the plot doesn't do amazing things during his travels. It's quite slice of life kind of thing. I think what is so beautiful about the book, because I gave it 4.5 stars, I really enjoyed it, is everything that you can read between the lines, which makes this book so beautiful, because I think it is amazing when you have a first person narrative and you can see all the things that the main character isn't noticing through their own words. So we see how people really felt about things, especially the English lord, who of course as a butler our main character has a really high standing for that man, but we get to know true reactions of other people as well that our main character is describing, but we see that there is a much bigger nuance in that man's like goodness or his morals or him as a person in general, and we see so many things that you can read in between the lines, which I loved so much about this book. It makes it tragic and emotional, and especially because our main character is never really in a place where he can admit to anything relating outside of his role as a butler. This was a big surprise because I was just expecting, because I know that this author writes like sci-fi, and Never Let Me Go is supposed to be quite gory and dark. This I was not expecting because it was kind of like a tragic feel-good in a way. I would recommend this to anyone to whom it sounds interesting. I had a really wonderful time reading this. I was surprised that Boy loves it so much because he's not usually a historical fiction kind of guy. We don't really watch a lot of historical films. Of course the ones I want to see we watch, but it's not usually his cup of tea, so I'm surprised this was a recommendation from him. Also, I did eat the cookies, not all of them, but I had a cookie and it's very delicious, of course, because it's a chocolate chip cookie with chocolate, so of course it's delicious. I was a little bit disappointed that I couldn't find any lemons because I wanted it to have a lemony taste, but this was fine too, and I did something with the color. I have read about 100 pages of Once Upon a Tome. I'm not sure how I feel about this. I thought it would be a memoir about a bookseller who works in a secondhand bookshop, so who is specialized and sells rare books. I really thought we would get a memoir with some really fun anecdotes, but I kind of missed the narrative in this book because it has really short chapters, and all the chapters are about a concept, and we do get to know everyone who works at this bookstore, but we don't really get a narrative. And I love it when more low-key nonfiction, which I think this is, has a narrative style of telling experiences, and this very much feels fragmented, which makes it not a very fast read. So I have split it up. I've been reading it for a good few days now, and I'm gonna read 50 pages each day. I think it's funny. Sometimes the jokes really work, sometimes the jokes go a little bit too far for me, that I know it's supposed to be funny, but it's kind of on the boundary of a little bit offensive maybe. But I think that's also being a bit harsh to the author. Yeah, I think this is gonna be a 3-ish star. I'm learning some fun things, and basically I really want to work in a bookshop, which I feel like who doesn't? Like here on Booktube, it's like a thing that we all want to work in a bookshop. I wouldn't really want to work in a bookshop where you just sell new books and where your job is to work in retail. A big part of his job is cataloging and looking at the books, looking what they're worth, doing research about them, and that just seems really lovely and fascinating to me. I like that he is also not like employee of the month vibes. He says that he is not necessarily, especially in his previous jobs, a really great employee, and that he works quite slowly, that he takes his time, and I kind of like that we get a very ordinary person talking about their job. I am liking that, but it's not really what I expected it would be. So I will talk to you when I finish this. I'm not really sure. I've been having a bit of difficulty to find an activity with the color teal, because now that it is September, I feel like the color teal is really like out of season. To me it feels like very summery color. I do have a paint by numbers painting going that has a lot of blues and teals, so I might do a little bit of that. I did also do some clay just because I think it's fun, but I want to give that autumny colors, so I'm not sure. I might go to the thrift store again and find something to sew, because I'm in a sewing mood now that I've made the purple bag. Yeah, I've been struggling with this, so I'm not sure yet. I think both yellow and purple were really great, quite project wise and book wise, and teal is gonna be the difficult one in this vlog, but I'll catch up with you once I kind of know what I want to do for the rest of this vlog. So I went to do some errands and I saw a craft department in one of the stores, and they had this, which is different kinds of teal, and there's a purple in it as well. I really like these colors. And then I got a few crochet hooks. I really like that these have a soft hold, which I think is much more comfortable than the traditional ones. I know how to crochet from years and years back, so I think I will have to reteach myself how to crochet. I was thinking of something very easy to do so that I can get the hang of it again. Of course I want to make like cute little animals. I saw people make like octopuses and things like that, but I think I'm gonna start easy. Permission to judge me. I saw a woman make a little blanket for her baby, so I thought, why not make a little blanket for my cat? I think Max matches most beautifully with this color because he is black and white, and I might make him a blanket, or I will do something that he'll hate but I will love and make him a little scarf. Welcome to my channel. I'm making a little scarf for my cat. Yes, okay, here we go. you can see, Max is truly enjoying his time with his scarf, which he turned into a little saddle. So he turned himself into a little pony within about 3 seconds. And then he looked truly shocked, don't know what I did to him. And then it took about another 2 seconds before he decided to go outside, chill, and just live his best pony life. So I'm on sprint right now with the Hobbitses. This is our final sprint and I finished Once Upon a Tome. And I have to say, I did end up enjoying this more when I really sat down, like with sprints for it. And I really just focused for it really well. Wait, let me hold the camera a little bit better. Baby is heavy. So I don't think I'm gonna give this a star rating. I have to say that once I got to know Oliver a little bit better, I did start to really like him, which is not necessarily something I really do with memoirs. I just am intrigued and interested, but I think Oliver is just a really nice person and it was nice to be in his head for a while, and I just enjoyed all the book nerdy stuff. It did remind me a little bit of, I think I have the book over there, the book that Jen Campbell wrote, Weird Things Customers Say in Bookshop. And I just think I kind of expected this to be a similar thing, but this is way more about literature, this is way more about books, about the job itself. While I like that, I think it is way more niche and it's much less a table coffee book feel. It feels less like that low-key warm hug non-fiction and a little bit more like just something of course I am personally interested in, but maybe this was just not really what I expected from it. But I think if it's really your niche, then you will have a wonderful time with this. So I would recommend it, but only to I think a quite small group of people. So this concludes my vlog for this week. I would have to say that even though Pages & Co. was the book of my heart, I loved it so much, The Remains of the Day was one of the biggest surprises and I had not planned to read it at all. I didn't even put it on my own TBR because of the color wheel. I picked that one up and I'm so happy that I did. I am actually looking forward to talking about that book in depth a little bit more, maybe in my wrap up, to give a bit more of a real review. I do usually do monthly wrap ups, so you can look forward to that if you want to watch that as well. For now, thank you so much for watching this vlog. I hope that you have a lovely, lovely day or evening, and I hope to see you in another video. Doei!